Welcome to Mrs. Keneally's Roundup for conditions for parallelograms. First, let's remember that a parallelogram is a quadrilateral that has two pairs of parallel sides. If your quadrilateral is a parallelogram, it will also have the following conditions in evidence. If both pairs of opposite sides are congruent, you also have a parallelogram. Likewise, in a parallelogram, there are two pairs of opposite angles congruent. Another test for whether or not a quadrilateral is a parallelogram is an examination of the diagonals. In a parallelogram, the diagonals bisect each other, cut each other in half, and so the diagonal AC is bisected by the diagonal DB. Sometimes it's possible that you won't have information about both pairs of opposite sides in a quadrilateral. And if you don't, you can still do a test for a parallelogram by checking one pair of opposite sides, and if one pair is both congruent and parallel, you have a parallelogram. In a coordinate plane, 4 points constitute a quadrilateral. You can test whether your quadrilateral is a parallelogram by using the conditions of quadrilaterals to test for congruence of two pairs of opposite sides. You can test for parallelness of the segments on the two opposite pairs of sides, and you can check the diagonals and see if they bisect each other. To test for congruence, use the distance formula. To test for parallel segments, use the slope formula. If you compute the slope of two line segments and the slopes are equal, the line segments are parallel. You can test for bisecting diagonals by using the midpoint formula. Take the average of the x and y values and compute a midpoint. Just as a reminder, here are the 3 tools that we can use to test for parallelograms. Use the distance formula to test for congruence between line segments. Use the slope formula to test for parallel line segments, and use the midpoint formula to test for bisecting diagonals.